Hey folks, this is Evgeny from Easy Automations, and in this tutorial, we're going to be connecting Thrivecart to the community platform. So I'll teach you how to take orders and charge customers using Thrivecart's amazing functionality, and then fulfill those orders with memberships and group access in Heartbeat community platform, which is also amazing. If you guys want to support this channel, please check out all of my affiliate links in the description to this video. I have it to Thrivecart, which is an amazing funnel-based checkout cart builder. I've got an affiliate link to Pabbly Connect, which is the system that we're going to be using to glue everything together. And I also have an affiliate link to Heartbeat, which is an absolutely amazing community platform that can host your courses, your community chats. It's got an amazing API. You can have custom GPT trained chatbots operating in that community and answering questions for you. It's an incredible product. All of these products have affiliate links that are in the description to this video. So without any further delay, let's dive into what are the peculiarities of Thrive Heartbeat that we need to first consider before we start building the automation workflows. If you've ever designed a product in Thrivecart, you will know that it can have upsells and bumps. So essentially, for any product that is set up in Thrivecart, you have what's called the base product. So this is essentially how you set up the base product, but you also have upsells, downsells, bumps. So for example, here you could set up a bump, and if you edit your checkout, and I'm just using one of the stock checkout pages from the new enhanced editor that recently launched. If you look at the funnel items here, this is an upsell and this is just a random downsell. We're not going to be using downsell for this tutorial, so I might as well just delete it. As if you've been using Thrivecart, it is a great tool to inflate the ticket or the price of the purchase by selling customers the base product that they came to buy, then adding a little bump like here to the cart with a little click. So essentially selling them another product. And then once you've sold them the main product, there comes the upsell, which looks something like this in the enhanced editor of Thrivecart. So here's another product, unique opportunity. It normally retails for $450, and here you can get it for $270. And so when someone clicks to order, you complete the order, and you would have sold them 3 products: the base product, the bump, and an upsell. How do we deal with fulfilling these products with memberships and access in Heartbeat? So let's get into my Heartbeat test community. In Heartbeat, the main unit of access is a group. However you add your users to your Heartbeat community, the way that you regulate access to resources such as threads, courses, docs, events is through groups. So for example, going to take a random default channel, no stupid questions. And as you can see here, when you set it up as a private channel, you can select users and groups that have access to this channel. So essentially, when you sell access to resources in Heartbeat, you end up adding users to groups. Okay. Now, how do users get added to groups in Heartbeat when they come externally? So that happens by connecting Heartbeat to something like Thrivecart with an intermediary, which you could call an automation system. There are many different automation systems. There's Zapier, there's Make, there's Active Pieces. Then there's also Pabbly Connect. So Pabbly Connect is an amazing automation system that is run by an incredible team based out of India. It's a small indie business, and I love supporting indie businesses. And that's why we're going to be using Pabbly Connect in this tutorial. Again, affiliate links are all in the description to this video. Go check them out. Incidentally, Heartbeat is also an indie business, so affiliate link is also in the description to this video. So in order for us to fulfill orders placed in Thrivecart, we need to set up 3 basic workflows. We need to set up a workflow that takes an order for the main product or the base product and then fulfills that order with a specific group access. Then we need to do the same for the bump, and we need to do the same for the upsell. Now, the reason that we need 3 of these is because this is probably the easiest and the most intuitive way for you to set this up in something like Pabbly Connect. The reason why this works is because Thrivecart allows you to subscribe to notifications, separate notification streams, main products, bumps, upsells, and if required, downsells, right? I'm not including downsells in this tutorial because if you understand the logic behind fulfilling main product purchases, bump purchases, and upsell purchases in Heartbeat, you can easily add downsells as well. Also, I've never met anyone who actually has downsells in their Thrivecart membership. Anyway, Thrivecart can send separate notifications for main products, bump, and upsell, and Pabbly Connect can catch them separately and then allow you to fulfill these purchases with memberships in Heartbeat. That's why we need to set up these 3 workflows here. So for now, just ignore this one, the one that is inactive, and we're just going to be focusing on the workflows that are active. So let me walk you through the purchase workflow for the main product, and you will see that typically this is the same architecture that we have for the rest of them. The trigger for this workflow is, it's called product purchase in Thrivecart. So I trust that you will be able to connect Pabbly Connect to Thrivecart with your API key. And then the trigger event, all you need to do is just select product purchase. So in this dialog here, you need to select the product whose purchase you want this workflow to trigger. So this is the product, test product multiple. I have no idea why I called it test product multiple. But anyway, so that is the product. The product status is test mode. Obviously, when you're building your workflows and you're testing your workflows, you need to set them up in test mode. But once you've done that, you can just click it to live mode and your workflow will work. So that's the trigger for the workflow. And then the next step is very important. It is find user in Heartbeat. Now, why do we want to first find user in Heartbeat? Why aren't we just rushing to start adding users to groups, invites, and what have you? And that is because with a Heartbeat, you will always have 2 types of users. When someone makes a purchase in Thrivecart, you have no idea if they already have an account with your community or they don't. Both are possible because, for example, you might have a free community that just accepts everyone, and then you have some premium parts of the community, access to which is being sold through Thrivecart. So in which case, when someone makes a purchase, it means that they already have an account in Heartbeat. At the same time, you might be selling Heartbeat memberships and access to resources to those who don't have an account in Heartbeat yet. And so that's why the first thing that we need to figure out is, does the person who placed a purchase for the main product, Thrivecart, do they have an account in Heartbeat? And the way that we do this is by performing the find user action. And we're mapping the customer email from the first step here into the email field. Now, the other thing that's important in this module is you need to make sure that ignore error is enabled. So here it says disable. Let me just show you how this works. So when you start building this workflow, you will see this. So this is what it says by default, ignore error enabled, because it's disabled. So you need to enable it. Why do you need to enable it? Because if you don't enable it and this module runs and it doesn't find the user, it will stop the workflow. What we need to happen is that if it doesn't find the user, despite the fact that technically speaking it's an error, the workflow needs to go, because it's absolutely fine if this module in Heartbeat cannot find the user. Make sure always to save workflows. So what is the next step? The next one is a router or a router. And this is where we have 2 execution branches. And these are conditional branches. They're going to run conditionally based on the outcomes of this module of finding the user. So the first branch is user exists. So this module managed to find the user. And so there's a user ID. So when a user joins Heartbeat, every user has an ID. Essentially, if that ID exists, then it means there is a user. So this branch will run if the user exists in Heartbeat. And this branch will run if the user doesn't exist in Heartbeat. So in this case, in the router is a filter, and I've test ran the Heartbeat find user module, and it found the user. And so essentially, I'm filtering on this user ID existing. So if the user ID exists, then what we need to do is, how do we fulfill the order in Heartbeat if the person who placed the purchase already has an account in your Heartbeat community? In this case, what we need to do is we need to add that user to the groups of your choice, to whatever group that is mapped to the product they've just purchased. So in this case, I am adding them to a group that's called test main product. And then I'm mapping the email from Thrivecart. I'm just putting no. So this is done. You can just click save. And then that concludes the branch. Now, what you might want to do here is you might want to notify the user that the user has been added to this group. An email notification goes a long way. So you can send an email from your Gmail account. You can use a transactional email sender. You can use something like Drip or any other autoresponder. Do as you please. Now, let's look at what happens if the user doesn't exist. So in this case, this module will return an error. And that's absolutely fine because it will still run, the workflow will still run. And so here, filtering on this user ID not existing. So it does not exist. Okay. And in this case, what we need to do is we need to create a user. If we create a user, it's an amazing dialog here that allows you to a user with the email that you can map from Thrivecart and with the name that you also need to map from the Thrivecart purchase data. And then your role ID, that really depends on how you got things set up. So the way I've got things set up is the role ID is user, and then the group is test main product. Exactly the same that we would have added the user to if the user already had the account with Heartbeat, as we did in the previous branch of this workflow. And I've left profile picture and everything else blank because it's something that you can just ask the user to complete if that is something that is required for your community. And for that, you can send them an email. You can say, hey, welcome to the community. Please complete your new account for you. Now, you might be asking, especially if you've watched my previous tutorials, why am I not using the action step that is called invite users to the community? And the reason why I'm doing this is because we have a possibility that we're going to be selling multiple products. If your purchase funnel is very simple, you have one base product, then you can use essentially a flat workflow that goes trigger on Thrivecart and then two modules, add to group and add to invite. And that's all you need. But in case you have upsells, downsells, bumps, then you're going to have a situation where you have one order and three fulfillments. And that means that if someone who placed the order in your Thrivecart doesn't have an account, they're going to get 3 invites. And in order to get invited to these groups, they need to click on every single invite. And it becomes quite messy. So I think this workflow is actually better. And to be honest, it also works really well for situations where you don't have multiple products to sell. For example, if you just have a very simple purchase workflow where you just have one base product set up in Thrivecart, you have one group, and all you want to do is just match the two. So an order placed in Thrivecart, and you add someone to one group in Heartbeat, then this workflow, I think, will actually do a great job replacing any other previous tutorials that I've done. So feel free to use this workflow, even if you're not selling multiple products per order. So that is for the main product. However, let's assume that someone purchased a bump and an upsell, right? How are we going to tackle that? We are going to need to build 2 more workflows. And the first workflow we're going to look at is bump. So the trigger for this workflow is bump purchase in Thrivecart. And I've selected the bump, that specific bump that I want this workflow to trigger on. And here the product status is still test mode. Now, what you will see here is, rather than going straight into finding the user, adding a very small time delay of just 1 minute. Now, why do I want to do that? Because you have 3 workflows in theory running in parallel. So if someone buys product, bump, and an upsell, Thrivecart will fire 3 concurrent notifications into Pabbly, and Pabbly will start 3 concurrent workflows, and every workflow will try to find the user and then make a decision on whether we want to create the user or add an existing user to groups based on what they find. But because there is no time delay between these workflows, because they're all running at the same time, it's highly possible they're just going to bump into each other. So, for example, one workflow may be running just a millisecond ahead of the other one, and you will have partially failed workflows because one workflow might be looking for a user while another one is in the process of creating that user. So I've tested these workflows without time delay, and I would say in 9 cases out of 10, they will work without time delay because the amazing tech wizards in Heartbeat probably accommodated this scenario. But in 1 case out of 10, you would have one of them failing. And if you want to have this robustness in the system, if you want to make sure that these workflows will work every time, then you need to separate their execution with delays. The base product purchase is the workflow that will run without delay. As soon as someone places purchase in Thrivecart, it will start running, and it will then figure out if the user exists. If the user doesn't exist, they will create that user account and will add them to the groups immediately. Then, while that base product workflow is running, we will just let the bump fulfillment workflow just wait. 1 minute is more than enough for the first workflow to fully complete, or at least get to a point where it either creates a user or it doesn't create a user and just adds existing user to groups. So that's why this 1 minute delay, I think, is crucial and will insert a great degree of robustness into your automation workflows. So after we've waited for 1 minute, we go with the same idea of finding the user. And then if the user is found, then we add the user to a predefined group, whatever group that is mapping itself in your business to the bump that they purchased in Thrivecart. So add users to group. And so this is my group that I call test bump, and the same mapping of the email. And then if the user doesn't exist, what we're doing is we're creating a new user account. So it's the same filter. Look at this. So the filter is in the user ID in Heartbeat. And if it doesn't exist, then we create the user. But in this case, the group that we're adding it to is the test bump. Now, I think the logic of what I'm trying to accomplish here should be fully transparent. And so that's why when we go back into the workflow for the upsell, you'll see that the logic is exactly the same. So the trigger is upsell purchase, and then there's another time delay. Now, this time delay needs to be slightly longer than 1 minute. So we're putting it here for 2 minutes. So you have base product purchase runs first. Then after a minute, you have the bump purchase fulfillment. And then after another minute, so 2 minutes here, you have the upsell purchase that runs. And the rest of it is basically the same. It's just when you fulfill order with the group access, you just want to make sure that it's the right group. So I've created a group that's called test upsell because upsell purchase. So one is make sure that this module, this find user module, has ignore error enabled. It says disable here. So the default state will be disabled, right? You need to enable it. Otherwise, your workflow will not work. Now, the second thing is, and this is, again, when you're building automations, there are some compromises that you need to take. It's something that you should just be aware of, and it's important that we talk about it. So in case the user doesn't exist, you will be making an API call or an automation request, the action step here in Pabbly Connect for Heartbeat to create the user. So first things first, you need the name for that user, right? That is a required field. In Thrivecart, when you're setting things up, the name as a field isn't the default option, the checkout pages. So if you go to the contact information, the customer name by default is disabled. So you need to enable it so that Thrivecart can then pass that information to Pabbly, and you can then map that information that gathered from Thrivecart into the module that creates a user in Heartbeat. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. So that's one thing that you just need to remember. And the other thing that you just need to consider is that if you look at all these other fields here, which is profile picture, bio, status, LinkedIn, Twitter, these are all the things that if you think about someone going through the invite workflow, when they're manually creating an account in their community, when you've just sent them an invite, this is the stuff that they will be required or not required to enter when they go through your community. Now, these are the things that you probably will need to leave empty here. In theory, you can collect them again in Thrivecart by throwing around various custom fields. But to be honest, I wouldn't recommend it because you need to collect the minimum information required that separates the user from the purchase button. And also, if someone already has an account in your community, why do they need to fill out all this information again? So that's why I would say that you should just leave these things blank and then just send an email here once you've created an account for them automatically through Pabbly Connect. Just send them a follow-up email saying that, look, it would be great if you could fill out your bio and let us know your LinkedIn, Twitter, or wherever else you are creating, whatever else that you require for folks to be in your community. Obviously, this means that you probably won't want to create the introduction thread because these fields will be empty. So this is a little bit of a user experience compromise that you just need to keep in mind if you want to use Thrivecart, and specifically if you want to use multiple purchases. And if you're happy with it, then I think that you can probably resolve this quite easily by just following up with the user and reminding them that they can/should add some more information about. So that is your basic workflow. So let's just recap. Here are our 3 working workflows, and let's just go through a test purchase to see if they will run. So I've got them activated and running, and I'm just going to go to my product. So let me just save all these and let me save and get your view checkout. And let me delete myself here. Okay, cool. Now let's go back to Thrivecart. Okay, so I've got this product working in test mode. Okay, so I've typed my name. Okay, so let me type my email address. And this is a fake postcode for the UK for a lucky person who lives in Bristol, for example. And here comes the upsell. So let's add the upsell. So all eyes are here on this dashboard. So the first workflow will be the base product. And that is exactly what happened here. So test main product. And then we're just going to wait a minute and then see how the rest of the group access will be added. Okay, so now we have test bump. We have the test upsell being added as well. And so as you can see, everything worked flawlessly.
That you want to look after in these 3 workflows is re-execution. And the reason why it's important is because, let me show this to you. So as Pabbly have recently launched an ability to re-execute workflows. You might not know this, but essentially they are trying to create feature parity with other integration platforms. And so one of the very useful things that they've launched is the ability to re-execute the workflow. And it's useful for applications like OpenAI, where requests often time out because OpenAI servers are just too busy to deal with your requests. Having re-executions enabled actually backfires. Why? Because of this step. So this find user step will sometimes result in error because Heartbeat will not be able to find the user in case someone who purchased your membership in Thrivecart does not have an account in Heartbeat. And that's perfectly normal for our workflow. As far as the logic is concerned, it's actually not an error. It's the desired outcome, but Pabbly still treats it as an error, and it will mark a fully normal execution of the workflow as partially failed because this module will fail. Now, obviously, you guys have enabled this module to ignore the error, and that's fine. That's exactly how you want to do it. But then what will happen is, even if your workflow runs successfully and folks are added to the right groups, because this module will produce errors as intended, Pabbly will then attempt to re-execute the same workflow. What you need to do in the settings of the workflow is auto re-execution settings. You need to disable it. And once you've done that, obviously Pabbly will give you a little warning there, but that will actually create the right workflow with Pabbly not attempting to re-execute the workflow that actually worked to your specifications. So, and that basically concludes this tutorial. Now, there's one extra use case that we haven't covered in this tutorial, and that is, show you. So let me open up the configuration of the funnel for the product in Thrivecart that we've been dealing with. All right, so this is the product that I've set up in Thrivecart, and we are in the new enhanced Thrivecart checkout editor. And so to edit the funnel, you're going here and just going to go to reconfigure this upsell. You will see is that you have an option to replace fulfillment for a previous purchase. So the way that you can configure upsells in Thrivecart is that an upsell can either add an additional product on top of what they've bought in their previous purchases, like the base product or bump, or you can choose to not fulfill some of the previous purchases with that upsell in case that upsell is an upgrade and it essentially triggers the fulfillment of a completely different product that places or is being fulfilled instead of product that is coming earlier in the sales funnel in Thrivecart. Now, a very typical application would be, for example, if you have Thrivecart Learn, which is Thrivecart's learning management system that is fully integrated with Thrivecart as the checkout funnel. In this case, for example, let's say you have a basic version of a course and then you have a premium version of a course. This upsell is configured in a way that if the customer chooses, they are upgraded to a more expensive course, but they're not going to get the cheaper course that they wanted to buy in the first place. So Thrivecart Learn read this setting and adjust the fulfillment accordingly so that they will not be adding the user to the cheaper course. Instead, because they chose this upsell, they will add it to the upgraded, more expensive course. Now, how do you get this logic replicated with fulfillment if you are fulfilling something externally? This becomes a slightly more complicated integration by us using a different trigger with Thrivecart and with us needing to introduce an extra step and using an extra tool to help you do that. So it's perfectly possible to replicate this logic with external fulfillment. But essentially, if you have a situation where you have a cheaper membership and then you have a more expensive membership, and these two memberships have different groups, and essentially, if you want someone who's purchasing the upsell to just have access to that kind of more premium group and not have access to the cheaper group, then you will need to use a more advanced integration, which I will be offering as a paid tutorial. And I will be posting the link in the description to this video as soon as it is ready. If you don't have this sophisticated situation where you have to cancel the fulfillment of the previous products in the funnel, then this tutorial, which I'm offering here for free in my channel, is the only thing that you need. So that concludes everything. Now, folks, to put these free tutorials together takes a lot of time and energy. So I'd appreciate if you like this video, subscribe to this channel,
let me know how it goes. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments to this video.